Hi, my name's Michael. I live in Colorado, and I'm making this video to talk about Lyme disease. It's something that's changed my life and definitely has been a hindrance, and has been a brutal story for me. I know there's a lot more people out there who are diagnosed, and there's a lot of people who just don't know they have Lyme disease. I just hope this insight in this video will help a few people out, and I just wanted to make it for a peace of mind. I grew up in upstate New York. I currently live in Colorado, and I've been out here 20-something years. I think I got Lyme disease in my late 20s and was not diagnosed until I was 40. I used to go to Long Island every summer, and in the winter sometimes I had friends on the very tip of Long Island in Shelter Island, New York, and they all have had Lyme disease out there on the island. There's just millions of deer ticks. The sad thing is I really just never knew what even a deer tick was, or what a tick bite looked like. So I never saw that I was bitten by a tick, and if you ever do get bit by a tick, I stress to you, instead of wondering or guessing, please get on. I think it's called dicycling. It takes you 30 days, and it'll be the cheapest fix of a what-if situation, because the Lyme disease tests that are out there in the world just aren't that good. If you get a tick bite, you'll know it because you get a bullseye. It's a big ring that'll go around the bite. Might go around your whole leg or around your arm, or it'll be a circular patch. But if you do get bit by a tick, it's better to be safe than sorry and just go on dicycline or this little antibiotic for 30 days and be done within 30 days of getting bit by the tick. Because you just don't want to end up like I did, or these thousands of people out there, or guessing what's going to happen, because Lyme disease just doesn't appear overnight. It takes years and years, and by the time you realize you got it, you're so far down the rabbit hole that being cured, or I guess cured, but even looking for the answers, you're just so, it's expensive, and I'll explain. So I was traveling to Long Island when I was younger a lot to go there for vacation for college buddies in my late 20s and early 30s, visiting during the summer on vacation. Like I said, I think I got bit by a tick then, and nothing. Then moving forward in my mid-30s, here in Colorado, I'm an avid fisherman, and I became very, very sick one summer, and my doctor said I had a virus, and basically sent me home with some sleeping pills and told me to get rest. And I own my own business, and I went off the deep end that summer, and I was healthy as an ox. I own a moving company, and I ended up bedridden, chills. I had every single thing that could go wrong with you. I was grinding my teeth. I was sweating, then I was cold, my nose would run, I'd have body aches. This went on for months, and I was at wit's end and was just about ready to move in with my parents when I went and saw a holistic doctor in Boulder, Colorado, who ended up testing me for West Nile. And why I'm bringing up West Nile is it was the kickoff to the whole odyssey of the last 15 to 20 years. So after she diagnosed me with West Nile, she gave me an IV, and it ended up kicking out of my body, and I actually went back to almost a normal style life. But since then, my body had changed, and I started noticing things year by year by year that I just wasn't feeling right. Some of it had to do with I was clenching a lot, my teeth. My sleep started to go south. I was having a hard time sleeping. And one of the main symptoms I had was migraines. And at first I thought it was, and I was diagnosed by doctors that it was like a seasonal thing where I would have a couple migraines, for a few days here or there, and then they would go away for months at a time. And that was in my early 30s, right around probably a couple years before the West Nile, but they kept marching on, and it wasn't seasonal, and they started to get more and more intense and frequently more and more. And up till literally 3 or 4 years ago, I'm 47 now, up until I was 44, my migraines increased significantly to the point of debilitation. I was having, when I was 44, 3 years ago, I was having a migraine every 8 hours for 40 days. And I had spent so much money. And I had already gotten diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I was on a bunch of medications. But the migraines, I had so many doctors and saw so many therapists, and when you're having those kind of migraines, if you've ever had a migraine, if you have one every 8 hours, you just don't know what's up or down, and you are not doing anything other than fighting a migraine or living through a migraine, or you're doped up on medication from the migraine medicine, and yeah, you're suicidal, and you just want them to end. I mean, I can't tell you how many nights I walked around in my house with full-blown migraines, or stood in the dark in my closet, or was so bedridden from migraines, or just in so much agonizing pain, or after the migraine just so shot and unable to work and do anything, live at all. But that was my main symptom, with was migraines. But moving through my 30s, yes, the migraines were a part of it, but I also started knowing in my neck and shoulders, I started having more and more pain there. And it was getting worse and worse. And a lot of people who have Lyme disease can attest to this. It just creeps up on you, the brain fog. And I had many times of depression and just not feeling right. Like I wasn't there. I just didn't feel normal, but I couldn't put a face on it. And moving into my 40s, I knew something was wrong. And, I was like 6 or 7 years removed from the from the West Nile. And I sought out doctors and had insurance, but if you've ever seen the movie, what would I say it was?
Under Our Skin?
If you've ever seen the movie Under Our Skin, you can talk about that. But moving forward, I sought out my holistic doctor again, and we met numerous times. I did numerous tests, and finally she did the Lyme disease test, and she did several on me, and it was, I guess, fortuitous in the sense that both of the Lyme disease tests that she did came back positive. There's just so many people out there who have Lyme disease and test negative for it, and they think they still can't find an answer. I mean, Lyme disease is just awful. Anyways, so I was like ready to do treatment. So I was around 40, and I talked to my friends in Long Island, New York, and was looking for a Lyme doctor, and almost went back there for a Lyme doctor, but I found one here in Colorado. First I used my holistic doctor, and we used a bunch of holistic different medicines. Yes, I did take some antibiotics from a normal doctor for Lyme disease, but then I moved right into the second phase of using a holistic doctor for Lyme disease.
So would you say this would be because that your the first medications that you had didn't have, what is that, your phone?
Yeah.
I'm gonna re-ask the question.
Go ahead.
Would you say that the reason for having numerous medications was that you weren't having much of an effect from the first medications?
When I talked to my friends in Long Island, they had all had Lyme disease. And my friends were like, oh, don't worry about it. Just take an antibiotic and, you'll be fine.
But they got their symptoms early.
Yeah. And they, if you get bit by a tick, they assume that they got Lyme disease back there. Like I said, if you get by a tick, assume you got it. Because if you assume wrong, it'll ruin your life. But They took an antibiotic, dicycline, I might be pronouncing that wrong, and you take it for 30 days and it goes away. Well, I took it for 30 days and I felt like shit. And nothing changed. And, you know, we did some more research and talked to my doctor, and I just have had the bug. It's a bug, and it's living inside my body, and it was everywhere. And getting back to some symptoms I had, couldn't figure it out in my 40s, but I had my ear just itched all the time. All the time. And it literally, when I had the wind or the car window down, my ear would, I went through eardrops and used Q-tips, and it just felt, it was like inside my inner ear, and I could not, it did feel, looking back on it now, it really did feel like there was bugs in there. I don't know how to describe it. It was just such an itching, drove me nuts, itching. I mean, that was just
one of the effects or side effects of Lyme disease.
In my case, it was, and you know, my neck and shoulders got more and more stiff. So, my doctor said, you know, Michael, you're going to need more antibiotics. You've obviously had it a longer time, and it's built up in your body. And in my particular case, I think the Lyme disease had been building up in my body from my early 30s or late 20s, and I was diagnosed at 40. At least 10 years, and honestly, if I had to guess, I would say I've had it 13 to 15 years. I think I got it in my early to mid 20s. Just didn't know. So I went on all kinds of holistic medications, and I gotta admit, in the beginning, I did them, but I wasn't super diligent. I just didn't take it seriously. What really kind of scared the hell out of me was after a year, I finally saw the Lyme movie. What did I say it was?
Under Our Skin.
Under Our Skin.
Amazon.
From Amazon. And it changed everything. I am like the people in that movie in a similar, I related to everything from the test cases. And also, I can say from a health standpoint, you know, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but the FDA and the drug companies here and the insurance companies in our country, it's pretty screwed up of how they don't recognize Lyme disease, chronic Lyme disease anyway. And you know, if you watch that movie, which I strongly urge you, if you're watching this video, to spend the money to watch that movie, you'll see all the dirty little tricks that go on in the healthcare industry.
It's currently on Amazon Prime, so if you're an Amazon member, it's free.
And it's sad, but that's the movie and you can watch it. But I definitely fit the profile of that movie, and part of that movie is why I made this video. And also, I gotta admit, after that movie, I couldn't take much more. I stopped. I didn't want to go out there and do the research and look at more videos and more movies on Lyme disease, because that one literally brought me, it's one of the movies that ever brought me to tears. And I just wanted to treat it and was hoping that my doctor here could help me. So after a year and a half to 2 years with my holistic doctor, I mean, I was throttling myself with all kinds of medications and dropping thousands on doctor appointments and just sleepwalking through life. I didn't date very much. I didn't go out. I didn't do much. The one thing that constantly pops into my mind over the years, and anybody with Lyme or long-term Lyme can attest to it, is your friends or family saying, "You look fine, you look fine, you look fine," and inside you feel like death. You feel awful. You feel depressed and in pain or just not right, and you're not sleeping, and your friends and families aren't around you and can't see that all the time. And when you go out, sometimes you do feel okay, but for a lot of times you feel awful and you don't want to be around people. And in my case, I think there's a rhyme or reason for it, but thank God I wasn't married, or thank God I didn't have kids, and that's probably the reason at this point, at 47 years old, I have not married or have kids, is because of Lyme disease. I really feel that I would have never been able to raise kids, or a marriage would have never lasted. I mean, I was bedridden so much and so depressed over the years that there was just no way someone would have put up with it. And after a while, you realize, like, you can say you feel like crap to your friends and families, but after a while, it kind of falls on deaf ears. I mean, I get it. Only so many people can only take so much of your story. You know, they got their own life to live. And in the meantime, you just slowly become a recluse. You slowly don't go to the parties anymore. You don't go out. You don't date. And you just, for my case, I turned into a couch potato. I mean, I just didn't even feel good enough to read.
How would you say it affected your like daily routine, normal tasks that you would do? Cooking, clothes, showering, brushing your teeth.
I could do things, and I was able to function. But there was huge swaths of time where I was bedridden. It just came, sometimes it came on from the medications. The medications screwed me up as much as the Lyme disease did. And I mean,
Did it make you more tired?
Yeah, brain fog was a huge part of it, and I didn't feel right, and just, I was able to function, but you just don't want to do anything or be around anyone or live life. I mean, you just want to, the one thing, it's a curse for me, is the one thing I wanted to do was sleep, because I was so depressed or I felt like shit. And honest to God, it was the one thing I couldn't do. And I had insomnia so bad. I mean, I was definitely hooked on pain pills to a degree, but more importantly, I was hooked on sleeping pills and anything like Valiums or triazepams or something to get me to sleep or to keep me asleep, because I could not sleep more than a few hours at a time. There were times where I have chills and I'd be hot. And I mean, I was all over the place. Yes, I was able to function, but not in a good way. I will say, though, that when you're grasping at straws and there's nothing to grasp at, you know, you do get down, and I do understand why the #1 death from Lyme disease is suicide. Not that I ever acted in it, but man, there are days when you just wished you were dead. I mean, you just felt like shit, and every day is just like the next day. So after a few years with a holistic doctor, she realized that I was sicker than she could help me, and she got me in to see a very particular Lyme disease doctor in Denver, and I went and was treated with him for the next 3 years. And it was hardcore. I was on average, 10 to 14 holistic and over-the-counter drugs for 3 years, every day, 2 to 3 times a day. This doctor's theory was to use normal medicine and holistic medicine. And yeah, again, I looked at maybe going online or going back to Long Island or back at the East Coast, because there was Lyme doctors there, but you know, I was like, I'll give this doctor, and I bought in. So I went now I'm like 42-ish, 43, and I bought into this Lyme doctor. I'd say 42, maybe 42, 43, but I bought into this Lyme doctor, and I went wholeheartedly into it. And like I said, I was on numerous drops and pills and different drugs every month, and his philosophy was to hit this Lyme disease from different angles over and over again and try to knock it out. Anybody who has Lyme disease knows there's different forms of Lyme, meaning once you attack Lyme disease in your body, it kind of goes dormant and goes into a cyst phase, and it hides, and all the antibiotics in the world will not kill it. And then once you stop medicine, it comes right back out of its shell and starts going at you again and working on your joints, and in my case, my neck and shoulders.
Does it
And
become resistant to certain medications?
yep, it'll become resistant. So part of this particular Lyme doctor's treatment was, yes, you attack it, and then afterwards, you go at the protein, and you have to take certain drugs to kill the protein that the Lyme disease is hiding behind, like a shield, and then you come at it from another angle and kill it off. That was the philosophy. And I went into this wholeheartedly for 3 years. And the first thing when I went into this Lyme doctor's office is I was like, I want you to put a port in my arm, and I want to do intravenous drugs, IV every day. That was what I wanted when I walked in. I'll never forget it. He was like, "Oh no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to bring a bazooka to a gunfight." I'll never forget him saying that. He's like, "You don't need all that. You're not that sick." And he talked me off of that, and we started with all the medications. And I was pretty fucked up, to be honest with you, on all these medications. And my body was a wreck. And I had to get massages once a week just to keep the pain out. I can't even describe how much pain I was in. And these massages, everybody thinks, oh, you're going in there for a nice, happy massage. No, I was going in there and they were cranking on my body. And I was having them go as hard as they could on my neck and shoulders, on my legs, my back. I just kept tightening up. I did chiropractor work. I had needling done from acupuncturists. I felt like shit. And I just kept buying. I was like, okay. And I kept telling the doctor, how much longer? And he's like, oh, probably 2 years. And we got to the 2-year mark. And, I didn't drink hardly at all. And if I did, boy, I paid for it in spades. I mean, it crushed. I would get these crazy neck pains in my head. It was hard to describe. I don't even know what they were. It wasn't a temple headache. It was in my neck and shoulder. And I would get these crazy headaches in my neck and shoulders when I drink alcohol. And so, you get enough of those, you don't want to drink anymore. Not that I was boozing it up that hard, but so I did this for 3 years. And we got to a point where I walked in around Thanksgiving time, before Thanksgiving. This was 2 years ago. And I had been on all these medications.
You want to take a look at, or show the people what you were actually taking?
So
You can do a shot
I learned,
and come to your conclusion.
yeah, in the movie,
Under Our Skin?
Under Our Skin, I'll never forget there was a game warden in there, and he saved all his medication bottles. And he talks about it. Again, Under Our Skin's a very good movie that'll correlate this video. He saved all his medicine bottles, and he dumped them out, and he shows how many he was before he found. And I decided to do the same thing. I was like, I'm going to save these medicine bottles until I'm cured, and I'm going to show people. And that's what I'm going to dump out here in a second. But I just want to say, it's not just the medicine, and it's not about just all the drugs I was on. It's the insane amount of money I spent. Thank God I had a little bit of money to survive, because I totally see now easily how this disease would bankrupt you and make you so broke that it'd make you suicidal, or just bankrupt you in general. Because I spent on average, with all the doctor's appointments and the massages, and over the years with everything that was attributed to this, I spent at least $40,000. And I didn't keep a checkbook on it. I just kept paying the bills. But with the doctor's appointments and the different meds and this and that, it was god awful. And I just can't believe that none of it was covered from insurance. All this was out of pocket. So with ado, here's how much medicine I put myself on in the last, since I got diagnosed with Lyme disease. I saved all my bottles. And I'm going to dump these out for you. This is all the medications that I've been on in the last 5 years, and doctor's prescriptions, and all the different medicines, the holistics, and the Cowden protocol. Some of you might have done that. I've done that as well. Some of these are supplements, but for the most part, all of these are medicines that I was told to take at one time or another from my holistic doctor, my regular doctor, or my Lyme disease doctor. And finally, as you can see, this is how much drugs I personally had to buy and was on for Lyme disease. So some of these are nutrients, some of these are sleeping pills, a lot of these are droppers of medicine. Abart was a very popular one that I was on numerous times. Cemento, these I was on for numerous years. A lot of these though are sleeping pills, triazolam. I remember vividly this bottle I had to buy over the counter. It was $800, just this one bottle, and I got it discounted down to $500 and had to pay cash for this one bottle. That's why I always remember this bottle. Did a lot of Coven sleeping pills, which is an over the counter, triazolams and Valiums. They made me do magnesium for pain. I mean, there's just endless. I mean, each one of these bottles is 40 bucks, 30 bucks, 20 bucks. And taking this stuff, I was taking a lot of these over and over and over again, and was taking them month by month. Yeah, the medicine, you can imagine you're not yourself or a normal person when you're on that much medicine. You're not very fun to be around either. And again, I just can't tell you how many times I was on the cliff looking out and just wondering, am I ever going to get changed? Is this really the way? So going back to it, I went to my Lyme doctor after just feeling awful for 3 years because I bought into his theory, and just kept asking him, I feel like shit, how much longer? When am I going to make the turn? You know, I was going into saunas all the time. That was another thing. I'd go to the gym, just go sit in the sauna and sweat. One, I was too weak to work out, but two, just sweat the stuff out of my body. And I'll never forget this meeting. It was the last one. I went in there, and again, I was telling him how awful I felt, and he was getting ready to write me prescriptions to more medicine. I was starting to lighten up on the medicine. I just couldn't take it anymore, and he was giving me a hard time, like, don't you want to beat this? And I'm like, yeah, I want to beat it, but, you know, I've been on it 3 years and feel like absolute shit. And so there were days, like, I'd skip the medications because I just couldn't put any more shit in my body. I just felt awful, let alone getting out of bed. I couldn't take all these droppers of this and pills of that, and I just felt awful. And I'll never forget, I asked him, how much more? You know, when am I going to be cured? When am I going to be cured? Because I was like, I was not buying into this to be treated. I was buying in for a cure. And he said, I can cure you. And that's what I was buying in on this. And he said to me, well, Michael, he goes, I might not be able to cure you, but he goes, I think I can get this down so that you can live with this for the rest of your life. And that just, that broke me right there. That was, those words crushed me. And he just didn't realize that I don't want to live with this. I want it gone. And when he said that, I was like, that just really was the last step, I think. The other thing he said too flippantly that really bothered me Was he goes, well, in hindsight, he goes, we probably should have put that port in your arm, in the beginning. He just said it so casually. And I mean, you just saw that pile of pills, and instead of doing IVs, instead I put how much more medicine in my body. I wanted to choke him over that. But I'll never forget, I walked out of his office and I got the next treatment plan. And I was like, you know what? I'm stopping completely. I just want to know where I'm at. I've been on drugs, so many medications for 5 to 6 years or whatever that period of time was. I just wanted to know where the hell I was. And I was going home for the holidays to see my mom and Thanksgiving and then back again at Christmas. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to drag all these medicines across the country, especially 14 medicines twice a day and get all this crap and fly it across the country. I was like, no, I'm just going to go off. So I went off everything. And I went through Thanksgiving, went through Christmas. I drank a little bit then. I remember I didn't feel great, but I was okay. But the changing point where I was just at the end of the rope was New Year's 2 years ago. And I was so sick, and again, I wasn't dating anybody. I was home. It was New Year's Eve, and my buddy came over because he had nothing going on for New Year's, and I remember he got drunk, and I had 2 beers, and sat on the couch. We watched some movies and just talked, and I felt so awful that night. I felt like such shit. My neck and stuff were hurting from 2 beers. And I just made a conscience. I said to myself, I was like, I got to do something. I didn't know what it was going to be. And I was like, in my mind, I thought, okay, I'm going to do a blood transfusion. And the next day I started looking on New Year's Eve day. I started looking online and started looking around. I was like, well, maybe I don't know. I'll go to Europe or go somewhere, and I'm gonna do a blood transfusion. Have them take all the blood out of my body and put new blood in. I'm like, well, that can't hurt. I'll pay for it. At this point, I didn't have any money left, but I didn't care. Then it was crazy. I forgot who mentioned it to me, but someone said, have you thought about stem cells? And that kind of kicked on the light. And from there, I just went and started delving into it. And I found out, it's huge in Europe for MMA fighters. In Germany, they're kind of pioneering in it, where they go there and treat MMA fighters and other people. But again, we're talking embryonic. There's different stem cells, and what we're talking here is embryonic stem cells, and those are the ones that good old George Bush and the FDA outlawed, I don't know, some point, so you can't get them in the States. Yes, we all have stem cells in our body, and for sports injuries or, elbow or whatever joints, they can take stem cells out of your body, create more in the lab, and pump them into you, and they will help with sports injuries. But what I needed help was my whole body. And the embryonic stem cells seemed like the right way to go. And I started looking, and I was broke at this point. And I was like, one, how am I going to sit on a plane for 14 hours and get to Germany? Two, I don't speak German. I don't, know anything about that society, and I can barely walk or get around. How am I going to do this? And I'm like, okay, there's got to be another spot that's cheaper. And I started looking online, and I did find a bunch of places online. In Mexico, everybody's like, oh, Mexico, be careful, yeah, there are horror stories. There are bad people out there who are taking advantage of people who have Lyme and other things by lying to you or offering you something that wasn't. But I ended up settling for one. It was called StemAid, and I called them, and I talked to the woman who I later found out was the daughter of the doctor, and she had Lyme disease. And talked to him, and I tried to do as much due diligence as I could, but at this point I was so sick, and they said, okay, you can come down and we'll treat you. It's $16,000. They said what I liked about it was they didn't ask for all the money up front. was half when I got there and half when I left, or halfway through. And looking back on it, I guess I took a leap of faith, but when I was so sick, I was like, I didn't care. So I took, they're like, we're so booked, they're like, you can come in like 10 days or you can't come in for another couple months. And I had my business to try to run. So I had to take a leap of faith pretty fast. And I was like, I'm doing this. So within 30 days of that New Year's, within 3 weeks of that New Year's, I found myself on a plane and I was on my way to Cabo San Jose in Mexico to go to STEM Aid and to get treated. And I went there. I took $20,000 out of my home equity line, got my cashier's check, packed everything. I got down there. Immediately I liked the place, which was awesome. I got to find out that the doctor there, who was French, she had studied in Canada and had studied in the United States. And the reason she got into it in the first place was because her daughter had Lyme disease and was bedridden, couldn't even get out of bed. And she was a doctor and she invested all this stuff on it. And I don't know how she came up with the theory, but she realized that embryonic stem cells, which create life, when they're pumped into your body, even though they're not your own cells, they go in and start repairing your body in the areas that it needs repaired and kick your body into repairing itself and also kicking the Lyme disease out of your body. They're really a miracle of evolution. So when I got down there, she's like, I know I can help you. And I was in a small clinic with like 12 people. And she said, the first thing we're going to do is chelation, which if you saw that pile of medicines, all medicines have metals in them. And the metals are there to preserve the medication. And I mean, that pile of medication, how can you not be toxic? How can you not have crap built in your body with that much medication and the Lyme disease? So the first part of my treatment down there was they gave me chelation. And she's like, I'm warning you, you're going to get really sick. And yeah, you're like, I've been sick for 5 years. What more can this do to me? And then they gave me vitamin IVs, and then they gave me stem cells. So that's how I started out. And I had to find a place down there to stay. And if you ever do this, I would spend a little extra and go out of town and be somewhere quiet. But it was terrifying. I was down there, and sure enough, they picked me up every day, and they fed you lunch, which was great. And then they put you on these IVs, but man, did I get sick. And it's just a bizarre sick. It just came on like a hurricane. Came on within 2 days and it lasted 3 days. And it was chills and sweats like I can't remember. And just a god awful, worst feeling than I've ever had. And holy cow, man, you want to call 911. It's the point where I, who have been sick, wanted to even call for help. And there's no one to call. I mean, you're in Mexico. I mean, sure, you can call, but how are you going to explain what the hell's wrong with you? And you just had to ride it out. And I rode it out for a couple days. And they just said to hang in there. And then I turned the corner. And it was crazy. Because the chelation lasted about 10 days. And I did 3 weeks of stem cells. And then they gave me vitamin IVs and fed me a perfect diet. Obviously, no drinking. And I just was shot out of a fucking cannon. That's how I describe it. I mean, I literally went like this with how I felt. And I just felt better and better and better every day. I remember there was a day there that I had the headphones in, was getting an IV, and was out inside on their patio and just started singing, and just felt like $1 million. I mean, I was down there, I was watching whales jump out of the water, and boy, I hadn't felt like that in, God, 20 years. I really hadn't felt that good. It was almost like being high without being high. It was really bizarre how good I felt. So, after 3 weeks, I will say they did one other thing that I thought was awesome down there at STEM Aid. Once a week, they would take the blood out of your body, and they would mix it with ozone and put it through this machine that to me looked like a large microwave. And this machine, whatever it did, pulled all the toxins out and put it in this filter. And I'll never forget how crazy that was. And they did that once a week. And it just pulled all this crap out of your body. And they were like, if the sicker you are, the bigger the filters fill up in 15 minutes. For me, it was like an hour. I remember talking with the nurses. I don't speak Spanish. I wish I did, but we were able to use a phone app, and I was able to talk to them and them talk to me. But I remember the doctor saying too, like, because I shore fished, and I brought a fishing pole down there and cast it, and she's like, oh, it's great, you're grounding yourself with the earth, and she really believed in that, and like walking on the beach with your shoes off. And so when I first got there, she hooked me up to all these frequency type machines. A lot of the stuff was Russian equipment that she said, like the Russian, how their philosophy of medicine is, you know, they didn't have the money like Big Pharma had in the United States, where here it's all medicine. There they spent a lot of their money on testing and equipment. And so she used a lot of Russian equipment, which I thought was interesting. But she did a bunch of tests on me in the beginning, and she saved those tests. A lot of them were frequency. One of them in particular was a frequency test. And I was sick. I had a lot of other things in my body. I think everybody or most people have a lot of mold in their body, which I tested high for. And then there was the Lyme disease, which I tested for. And then other than that, most of the frequencies were dormant. I remember thinking, like, as a cynical, like, you know, you could show me anything. I wouldn't know if it was true or not. I mean, they just took me up to a machine and showing you this thing on a laptop. Is it real? You don't know. Like, I assumed it was. I hoped it was. But I remember the day I was leaving and checking out of the clinic, she came in. I mean, yeah, she was there and talked to me numerous times. I mean, she was a great doctor. I kind of feel ashamed that I can't think of her name offhand. But she did all those tests again. And then she put them on a laptop, and she showed me with the tests when I first came in. And there was a clincher to this that I'd like to share, and that was, again, how do you know, right? Yeah, I felt great. Well, if you've ever been to Mexico, most people who have caught the Mexican flu, which is if you drink the water down there, you get diarrhea, and, you know, it lasts for a few days. And I think I got it one of the last nights I was there, a few days before I left. I think it was the ice in one of the drinks. And I got whatever that's called, dysentery or whatever. I'm not sure what it was, but so I had that going on, but I was feeling great. And then she did those tests, and I'll never forget, she ran through, and the tests were all, the Lyme was gone, and the molds were all gone, and everything. I looked great all the way across the board. I mean, it's a while to run these tests. And at the very end of the test, there was one line that shot up, and she looked at it, and she goes, geez, I don't know what that is. She's like, I'm gonna have to look that up. It was weird, one line. And so afterwards, she went and she looked up her book and looked up that frequency, and it was hand in hand with the Mexican flu. It was whatever that dysentery one was. And that right there was the clincher for me, because I didn't have it when I got there, and it showed up on this test, and it showed way up there. And I was like, oh yeah, I knew I had. Then it lasted a couple days. By the time I got back to the States, it was gone. But I felt like $1 million, and I told that doctor, and I'll tell anyone, and that's part of the reason I'm making this video. STEM aid there in Mexico, and she was trying to open up another clinic with other doctors in Tijuana. She was getting a lot of her supplies from the States. But I said she was way underselling what she was doing there, and she was really genuinely cared about the patients and getting you right. You know, like, they just didn't hook you up to IVs there. I mean, they had massages done for you there. They did sweating techniques there. They did Tai Chi there. They did some meditation there. It was a very quiet clinic. It wasn't packed. Very clean, very neat, and it was very simple. You know, you were hooked up to IVs a few times a day, and it was so worth the money and so worth getting my life back. She did say, you know, when you get back to the States, you know, you're going to have some down. You know, you're not going to feel this great again. You're going to have some downtime. And she said, you know, be prepared for that. And she also said, you know, come back. You know, You get a lot of, life beats everybody up, and she's like, these embryonic stem cells, they are the real deal. They really do go through your body. I don't know, they made me feel like $1 million. You can take what you want from it. So came back to the States. I literally took all my medications that I was on, put them in the box. I never called my Lyme doctor again. And I had pretty much my life back. I was able to date. I was able to go out. I was able to enjoy myself. I did tip a few here and there because I hadn't in so many years, and I felt okay. No craziness involved, and felt okay. That was 2 years ago. Maybe a hair, I'd say 2 years ago. So where am I at today? 47. And I wish I could sit here and say, oh, it's a perfect ending. It all ended well. But it hasn't. There's still some issues. And do I feel better than I was? Oh my God, I feel 1,000,000 times better. Was there stuff still wrong? For sure. To be safe this summer, I went and had my Kaiser Permanente doctor give me a Lyme disease test. Just to check. Sure enough, came back blank. And then I talked to my holistic doctor, which I still see now and then, and she was like, those tests aren't very good. They don't test very well. So I still might go back and do another Lyme test. I think it's gone, but I have different things going on now. There's 3 of them. One, I still have the neck and shoulder pains, and I'm going to some physical therapy to Kaiser to try to stretch some of these muscles out in my neck and shoulder. I guess the one thing that keeps coming up over and over and over again is I probably should be doing yoga for numerous reasons. I don't know why I keep fighting it, and I should just do it. I don't know why, but I know it would help me because it'd stretch your body out and it'd help me mentally. That's something I'm going to attack next. That's the next thing in the channel. But a couple things that are off are, one, that there's just nothing I can do about it. No one can. Is I have tinnitus in my ears, and I have had a ringing in my ears, and it's not good. And it seems to have gotten worse here in the last year. And I don't know what that's about. No one can really help you with tinnitus. So you can take a couple things, but there's really nothing for it. But I don't know. I have a hardcore ringing in my ears at some points. Sometimes I'm okay, but other times it's there. Right now it's ringing. The other thing, this might be on me, but I have an addiction to sleeping pills, Valiums, and some natural sleeping pills, Covin's PM. I try to stay away from the hardcore sleeping pills. Melatonin that I take. I'll take a Valium or a triazepam, but it's almost a crutch at this point because I can fall asleep, but I can't stay asleep. At the same time, I haven't really tested myself, but that's the one thing that I need to get away from. I mean, I'm to the point now where literally I can eat a Valium and I'll be fine. It does nothing to me. Some people eat a Valium, they're flat out, they're knocked down, and my body's so used to eating them that I don't know. So that's a downer, is the sleep thing, which I think might be a mental thing. And then the last thing is just my neck and shoulders. They just ache a lot. Now, it could be from the damages that were done a long time ago, and I do think living in Colorado has something to do with how I feel, and that's because of the altitude. A lot of people who are sick, if you have certain diseases, if you're up high, we're a mile high above sea level, it affects you differently. I know, and I can attest to this because over the years I've gone back to New York and back to the ocean, and I feel great. And I come back to Colorado and I feel like shit again. And at first it's like, oh, it's because you're on vacation. You're on vacation, you feel good. No, it's definitely something to do with the altitude. And I probably won't stay in Colorado forever. At some point I'll have to go to lower elevation. I know that the elevation change does something. I can't explain it. I'm not a doctor, but I feel better at lower elevations. I'm able to function now. The brain fog pretty much is gone. I still have it a little bit. But I will say, like, the helplessness, and I mean, there were days that I would just walk around my house and stare at the wall. I couldn't even turn the TV on. And days I just wanted to sleep. I mean, I don't, you know, I'm not dying to sleep all the time anymore. Sure, I like a nap every now and then, but for the most part, I feel like I'm okay. If I can, I'll probably be going back to STEM aid again, the next couple of years, do another week or two. I get it. You know, it's expensive. But I mean, I just dumped out $40,000 worth of empty medicine bottles and went to 5, 6 years of appointments here, and that was 40 grand. And I went down there for 3 weeks and spent 20 grand, and I felt like $1,000,000. I came back, and besides a few sleeping pills when I got back, I mean, I was great. I will say they gave me some supplements down there too to help you feel better with the detoxing process, and then with the stem cells. But yeah, there's places all over the world, and there's people all over the world in that clinic. I remember I was down there with a guy who was a professional rugby player, and he'd lost everything. Everybody, same story over and over again. Everybody lost everything, whether it was their significant other or their job or their business. The people who were in that clinic all had lost something, all of them. And that was an eye-opener to me. And they all got sick like I did. I did really well responding to it down there. I can't speak for others. Some people were way sicker than I was. And I don't think they did as well, but I think they needed just more treatment. I mean, but for me, I got a renewed lease on life. And, you know, I hope this video helps someone out there. You know, I'll put my email on here if you want to reach out to me. My hope is to send this video to STEM Aid so that they can put it on their website. And then I will have it posted on YouTube for Lyme disease, my story. But if you ever want to reach out to me with an email, I'll tell you anything you want to know. It's a god-awful disease. And I just see in this country that the way that they're attacking it is, you can read about it in the movie that I keep talking about, but I really see that they're just trying to keep you as a patient. And they're really trying to keep you prolonged on medications. I really don't think that there's people out there that want to cure Lyme disease. I think everybody who's trying to cure it is all holding their cards, and no one's sharing information anymore. And it's all about all these antibiotics, and everybody's kind of throwing a dart at a dartboard, and that's kind of how I felt. Like, and I know so many stories of the same thing. They'd all have done crazy treatments and done this and done that, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. That's why I think that no matter what medications you end up taking for Lyme disease, I am telling you the stem cells, the embryonic stem cells will help you. Whether they cure you or not, I don't know, but they will at least get you back to you and get you back to level ground. You may not be cured, you may not be perfect, but they definitely will make you want to live again. They'll definitely make you so you can walk again and you're not so bedridden that you can't do anything. You might still have to come back and go on antibiotics and still keep pounding away at it. But for me, I don't know. You asked, are you cured? My friends ask, are you cured? I don't know. I feel way better than I did a few years ago, but I still have some side effects I can't explain. But I can live. I can live with it. I'm not huddled up in a ball. I'm not suicidal anymore. You know, I'm dating. I have a girlfriend now. I'm still able to do things. Yeah, I get sore and I get, like I said, my neck right now and shoulders. I'm still getting massages and acupuncture, but not to the frequency I did before. I just wanted to add one last thing to this, and that is, which I was naive about, is if you are on any sorts of medication, and most people Lyme are on tons, but if you're naive like I was, please get yourself on a probiotic for your stomach. All these medications strip your body of all the good bacteria because it's a lot of this medication is antibiotic and killing you. And I just can't strongly say, I had a lot of gas and a lot of gut pains and a lot of just wrong feelings in my stomach until I got on a good a good probiotic once a day, every day. And I probably won't stop that for probably life. I might take a cheaper one. Right now I'm taking an expensive one. It's like $60 or $50 for 30 days worth. But I promise, man, my doctor, a holistic doctor, said to do it, and I was like, oh, what does that mean? But after I did it for like 2 months, wow. And I've been on probiotic now for about 6 to 8 months, and now big change there, and I felt obligated to say that to anybody who has been on this much medication to please take a probiotic and stay on it. You don't have to spend a ton of money on it. If you're doing something, it helps. Obviously, there's foods and stuff you can take that have probiotics in it, but trust me, it will help you.